Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to kick off this presentation on decoding relationship red flags. Today, we'll explore some common warning signs women might use that could signal manipulation or game playing. The title is Decoding Relationship Red Flags, and our subtitle will focus on recognizing early warning signs. Over the next few minutes, we'll learn how to identify these phrases, understand their meaning, and respond in a way that protects your self-respect and boundaries. Let's get started. All right, on this slide, we're going to outline what we'll be covering today. First, we'll look at the different types of phrases. Think about the 4 words we're focusing on. What kinds of phrases do they form? Understanding these types helps us see how language functions in various contexts. Next, we'll explore the underlying meanings. What might these words really be communicating beneath the surface? Sometimes, there's more than just the literal words, and recognizing that can be really powerful. Then, we'll delve into the dynamics at play. What psychological or social factors influence how these phrases are used or received? Knowing this can give us insight into human interactions and motivations. Finally, we'll discuss concrete actions. What steps should someone take when they hear these phrases? Whether it's responding, questioning, or clarifying, having clear actions in mind helps us navigate conversations more effectively. This overview ties back to our overall theme of improving communication and understanding in our interactions. Let's take a closer look at 4 possible phrases you might see in relationship advice media that are often considered red flags. These phrases, on the surface, might seem pretty harmless or even normal. However, when you really consider the context, they can reveal underlying issues that might need attention. It's important to recognize that these phrases often signal more than just words. They can point to deeper emotional or behavioral patterns that could be problematic. Throughout this presentation, we've been emphasizing how important healthy communication is in relationships. And identifying these red flag phrases is a key part of understanding what might be going wrong. So, by being aware of these phrases and what they imply, we can better navigate relationships and recognize when something might need to be addressed before it becomes a bigger problem. When someone says, "I'm not ready for a relationship," it can actually mean several things. They might be looking for attention, emotional connection, or comfort without wanting to commit. Sometimes, it's a way to avoid the responsibilities that come with a serious relationship, or maybe they just want to keep their options open, even preparing an exit strategy if things don't work out. Then there's the phrase, "You're too nice." At first glance, it sounds like a compliment, right? But often, it's a form of subtle manipulation. It can be used to praise your kindness while also implying that being too nice might be a disadvantage, perhaps boring or too predictable. It might even signal that the other person is craving more drama or excitement, or they prefer chasing something rather than enjoying genuine comfort and stability. And finally, when someone says, "I've been hurt before," it's a common way to evoke emotional sympathy. It can lower your expectations and make you more forgiving, but it's also a way to protect themselves from vulnerability. Recognizing these phrases helps us see beyond the surface and understand the underlying intentions or fears, which ties back to the overall theme of understanding true motives in relationships. Let's take a closer look at the psychological and social dynamics behind these phrases. Understanding why someone might use these kinds of statements is key to interpreting them accurately. First, there's the aspect of safety and emotional protection. When someone says, "I've been hurt before," or "I'm not ready," it often stems from a fear of vulnerability. They genuinely want connection, but they're also afraid of getting hurt again. These phrases act as a kind of shield, helping them protect their emotional well-being. On the other hand, some of these sayings are about power and control. They can serve as a way for someone to gain leverage in the relationship. For example, by setting distance or delaying commitment, they keep the other person guessing or more invested. This can create an imbalance where one partner holds more emotional power than the other. So, understanding these underlying motives helps us see that these phrases are not just words, but expressions of deeper psychological and social needs. Recognizing this can guide us in responding more empathetically and effectively within the relationship. When we talk about testing or gauging, What I mean is that sometimes a person might be evaluating how the other will respond. For example, if you accept their boundaries, show patience, or maintain your own standards and respect yourself, their reaction can tell you a lot about their true feelings or intentions. It's like a subtle way of reading between the lines. On the other hand, avoidance or escape are tactics people use, often to avoid deeper conversations or to slowly exit a relationship without having a direct confrontation. It's a way of sidestepping issues, which can be quite revealing about underlying dynamics. And then there are cultural or learned patterns. In many societies and social circles, emotional games are actually normalized. People learn that keeping some mystery or not being constantly available makes them more desirable. These behaviors become part of the social script, shaping how people interact and sometimes making it harder to recognize genuine connection versus manipulation. Understanding these patterns helps us see the bigger picture, especially when we're trying to build healthier relationships based on honesty and respect. When you hear certain phrases or suspect someone is signaling something similar, it's important to have a clear plan of action. First, pause and reflect. Don't rush to conclusions. Consider the context, tone, how often it happens, and whether it's a one-time comment or part of a pattern. Next, ask clarifying questions. Instead of assuming manipulation, try to open honest dialogue. For example, if they say they're not ready, ask what that means exactly. Are they talking about dating, commitment, living together? What pace feels comfortable for them? Then maintain your boundaries. Decide what you're okay with. If someone says, I don't want things to move too fast, ask yourself if you're okay waiting. If not, be clear that your needs differ and that mismatch matters. It's also crucial to observe consistency. Words are important, but actions speak louder. If someone's words align with their actions, like showing commitment, they're building trust. But if there's a disconnect, say they care but never make time, that's a red flag. Protect your emotional investment. If you feel like the words are just strings to keep you hanging, and your hopes are always just out of reach, it's time to pull back. Reduce your expectations and avoid overcommitting until things are clearer. Finally, decide whether to walk away. If, after honest conversations and giving space, the other person remains in limbo or keeps using these phrases without follow-through, it may be best to step back or exit. Your emotional safety and respect for your time and feelings are the most important. All right, let's talk about some important caveats, things that this advice isn't meant to cover. First, just because someone says, I've been hurt, or I don't want to rush, doesn't automatically mean they're playing you or trying to manipulate. Many people use those phrases sincerely and in a healthy way. It's essential to consider the context and the individual's intentions. This isn't about playing games or manipulating back. Ethical behavior, open communication, and respect are the foundation here. The goal isn't to win or trick the other person, but rather to understand where they're coming from, protect your own interests, and see if there's potential for a mutual, genuine connection. Also, keep in mind that cultural, personal, and relational factors play a big role. Someone's past experiences, attachment style, communication habits, and emotional maturity all influence how they express themselves. So, it's important not to jump to conclusions based solely on their words or actions. Instead, approach these situations with compassion and curiosity, always considering the broader context. So, as we wrap up, I want to emphasize that recognizing phrases that might signal manipulation or avoidance is definitely helpful. However, what's most important is how you respond to those signals. Those 4 words, or similar ones, are really just warning signs. They shouldn't be seen as definitive proof of anything, but rather as cues that you might need to pay closer attention. Use these cues to engage in honest communication. Be open and clear about what you want and need. Watch whether the words people use actually match their actions, because actions often speak louder than words. And most importantly, make decisions that support your emotional well-being. This approach connects directly to the overall theme of our presentation: being aware, staying authentic, and protecting yourself emotionally. It's about turning awareness into positive, constructive responses.